So I've obviously mentioned it in previous videos, but I think it's worth reiterating again. I think Stephen Fulton deserves a whole lot of credit for taking the INNOUE fight. Now, the reason why I think he deserves that credit is because, let's be real, at this point in time, he was a unified champion, and he could have easily have taken a unification bout against Marlon Tapayas, who INNOUE is going to fight next. Now, Marlon Tapayas is the IBF and WBA champion, and obviously at the time Stephen Fulton was a WBO and WBC champion. I think he could have beaten Marlon Tapayas because I think Stephen Fulton had the talent to do so, and I think he could have taken that fight. He could have won the fight, and he would have been an undisputed champion at junior featherweight or super bantamweight, whichever way you look at it. So from that perspective, I just think it could have been something that he could have done. He could have easily have taken that fight, and he could have easily have become an undisputed champion. But instead, he took the fight against INNOUE, and obviously they must have offered him a lot of money for him to take that fight. He wouldn't have taken that fight for no reason. They must have offered him a lot of money, but he could have easily have ducked INNOUE. He could have easily become undisputed, and then if he became undisputed, even though he did get paid a lot of money to fight INNOUE, he would have got a lot more money to fight him the second time round if he would have beaten Tapayas first, become undisputed at that weight. And I think he could have beaten Tapayas, by the way. I think he would have been offered more money than he made. So in a weird way, you could argue that he made a mistake by taking a fight against INNOUE. He should have taken a Tapayas fight, got all the titles, become undisputed, and I think he could have beaten Tapayas. And then he could have fought INNOUE, and obviously INNOUE probably would have beaten him, but he would have got paid a lot more if that's what he did. So from that perspective, obviously a lot of people are probably talking a little bit bad about Fulton, but let's not get it twisted. It's not because Fulton is a bad fighter, it's because INNOUE's so good that he looked the way he looked against him. I mean, Fulton is a legit fighter. He was undefeated, he was unified, and he was underrated as well, and he had very slick boxing skills, yet INNOUE just ran through him. So I think obviously INNOUE deserves a hell of a lot of credit for literally beating Fulton the way he did. But let's not get it twisted, Fulton's a hell of a fighter. I mean, he's a really good fighter, and in a weird way, even though he got paid a lot of money to fight INNOUE, I believe Top Rank must have paid him a hell of a lot of money for him to turn down a potential undisputed fight against Marlon Tapayas and take on INNOUE. He must have got paid a lot of money, or he must have been. It could be that it's bad management. Like, he took that fight for whatever reason. We don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but he took that fight for whatever reason. But I still think he deserves a lot of credit. He must have known that he was going in there against a very special fighter in INNOUE. I mean, even before the fight, a lot of people were saying that INNOUE is a top 3 pound for pound fighter. So Fulton knew what he was getting himself into, so I think he does deserve credit. And I feel like more champions should take risks like that. I mean, it makes the sport a much better sport. Obviously, I think we finally come out of the Mayweather era. The Mayweather era was obviously taking the least riskiest fight for the most amount of money, and obviously there are still fighters doing it, like Tyson Fury at the moment. Instead of fighting Usyk, and he could have made a hell of a money fighting Usyk, he's taken an easier fight in fighting Francis Ngannou. But I feel like we're getting out of that era now. It took a long time to get out of that era where fighters were protecting their O. But I think it's starting to happen now, where fighters are taking more risks now, and we're getting the fight. We as fight fans are getting the fights that we want to see, which can only be good for the sport. So I'm glad about that. So I feel like instead of fans trolling Fulton, I think they should give him a lot of credit, because truth be told, he deserves it. He didn't have to take that fight against INNOUE. But that's just my thoughts. What's your thoughts about all of this? Do you think he deserves credit for taking that fight, or do you feel like we're giving too much credit to these fighters for taking fights that they should be taking anyway? I feel like it's a bit of both. I think they do deserve credit. I mean, a lot of fighters could duck fights, but they decide to take them. They do deserve credit for that, because obviously they took a fight that they didn't have to take. They didn't have to take a fight. They could have. He could have easily have had an undisputed fight and became an undisputed world champion. I think he would have beaten Marlon Tapayas, in my opinion. But I'm kind of glad he took the INNOUE fight. Instead of ducking him, he decided to fight him. If he would have beaten him, this is all hindsight, of course. We're talking about hindsight. But if he would have beaten him, it would have looked incredible on his resume that he managed to actually beat someone of the level of INNOUE. But obviously, that's not what happened. INNOUE completely destroyed him. But I still think it's incredible what's happened. he's a legit champion. I think he deserves a lot of credit for taking the fights that he took, because he didn't have to do it. He did not have to do it. So yeah, that's just my opinion. What's your opinion about this? Do you think he deserves credit, or do you not think he deserves any credit? Tell me what you think below, and like and subscribe to the channel. I've got a lot more content coming your way. Peace.